All right, so are you the type of person that equates the stock market with the economy? The stock market is doing crazy good. We've reached all-time highs. It seems like every single minute we're reaching an all-time high. But what's the real tea on this economy? In this video, we're gonna get in a little bit deeper, right? So we're gonna go beyond what you hear on TV. We're gonna go beyond what you hear on social media, and we're gonna grab them facts. Make sure you stay until the end so you can hear my thoughts on the economy and how you can prepare in the event that we do have a recession and what kind of recession we have. Because it's a difference. All that and more, keep it locked. It's Crystal with the Cash Compass. Welcome back. I am here to teach you all the things that you should have learned in school about money, but you were too busy trying to remember the periodic table. Please be sure to subscribe because we talk about everything from personal finance to the economy to the investing, and it's free. I just asked for a quick little like. So we're gonna take it back a little bit and kind of understand how money is even created in this system. So back in the day, money was on what we call a gold standard, and that basically means that in order for us to make money, we had to literally dig up and mine, whatever they got to do to get gold. So it had some type of value, right? So you had to dig out gold. If you wanted $1, you had to basically go find $1. Now we have fiat currency, and that basically just means it goes on faith. So the actual dollar only has value because we say it does. And I mean, think about it. What could you do with $1? You could probably throw it in a fire, but you can't eat it. You can't do much. It just has value because we say it does. And that's what the fiat currency system is that we have today. So they being the Fed, right? Our central government in the United States, the Fed creates the money, but how do they know how much money to print, right? Because they can't just print money for nothing. Those who are in accounting know if you have a debit, you have to have a credit. So what they'll do is they'll print cash and then they will use that to buy up assets on their balance sheet. I'm already getting nerdy. So they'll basically buy government bonds, corporate bonds, stocks, or you'll go into your bank and you say you need a loan, and that also would get money to create. It's basically created on debt. It's no specific amount. It's however much debt people need to go into, the money is printed for. And I know it's a little bit complicated, so if you do have any questions on anything that I'm saying, make sure you drop it in the comments below. So very special people in the world have access to these money printers, so to speak, and they can control how much money comes into the economy as well as how much money comes out of the economy. And that money printing causes inflation. And I've said this before, but it's worth repeating. Inflation, I think, is very misunderstood. The idea of inflation is your purchasing power goes away little by little by little. And the money is worth less as more printing happens. So for example, if somebody gave you a cookie, you're going to be like, ooh, it's lit, got me a cookie. But if I come to you every day and I have 50 cookies, eventually the cookie is no longer special to you because now you're sick of cookies and now you want some cake. So that's exactly how it works with the money supply. If you keep on printing so much, it becomes worthless. And that's what's happening with inflation, but it's a very gradual thing. It's kind of like watching paint dry, so you don't notice, but your money is worth less. So another thing that causes inflation is lower interest rates. And I know you guys have been hearing in the news, or maybe not, I don't know what you do with your life, but in the news you'll hear that the interest rate has been lowered 25 basis points. And you're kind of like, okay, what does that mean? So that is a type of monetary policy. There's monetary policy and there's fiscal policies. Monetary policies is the money supply and the federal funds rate. And basically when the Fed does that, the intention is to kind of stimulate the economy. Think about it this way. When you go into a store and you see there's an item that's on sale, right? Maybe somebody didn't want to buy it at $40, but at $30 they'll be willing to buy it. And if no one wants to buy it at $30, they'll be willing to buy it at $20, right? So eventually it'll keep on going down, and then at a certain price point, it's going to look attractive to certain people. And that's the same exact concept when it comes to the federal funds rate. So the intention is if they lower the federal funds rate, if the central banks lower their rate, that'll trickle into the economy and mortgage rates will go lower and auto loans will go lower. You get the point. The idea is that's supposed to make it cheaper and that'll hopefully attract people to make a purchase. However, that does cause inflation, and this is a simple economics ideology, but basically as there are more demand for the product, the price will go up. So another example, if you have the same cookies and you sell them and you are selling it for $1 and your line is out the door around the corner, 100 million people want your cookie, you're like, okay, I can't make this many cookies. I'm about to charge $2. And now you might have half the people, but you're making the same amount of money, right? So that causes inflation. Your prices are rising now. So I hope that makes sense, right? So the interest rates going lower can actually be good for people who might have needed that to get into a house or to get a business loan or something like that. But it's a sign that there is some sort of stimulation needed in the economy. Would you put your cookies or would you put your clothes on sale if there's people buying it? No. Why would I do that? Why would I intentionally make things cheaper when people are perfectly fine buying it at the higher price? That's not good business sense. It's not even common sense. So that alone will let you know that there is some sort of stimulation needed, right? That along with the excessive money printing, which I'm not going to get into maybe in another video. So let me know in the comments below if you would like a video diving deeper into the whole money printing thing. But this gives you an idea that, okay, there might be some stimulation needed. It's important to know that 70% of the growth in our economy, our GDP, is based on consumer spending. Back in the day, we were more manufacturing, innovating, creating jobs, but now it's all about that credit, honey. And think about it, a lot of people are not buying these things in cash. I mean, who have you heard from the last time buy a car fully in cash? It happens, but it's not as prevalent as it used to be. People are going into an obscene amount of debt to buy these fancy houses and these nice cars. So don't feel bad if you don't have them fancy things, because that person's probably in debt. And that explains why we need that stimulation, because if people stop spending money, then things are going to start slowing down. Jobs might be lost. We are heavily dependent on people going into debt and making these purchases. It's also important to know that the numbers that they give you might be slightly skewed. And again, I am not conspiracizing, if that's a word. This is facts. So what we use for unemployment is called the U3 number. And it's not as accurate because it does keep out a couple of key factors. So people who are underemployed, which means they don't have the job that they actually want, maybe they're working part-time washing dishes, but they'll consider that person fully employed. The U6 number is a bit better, but again, it also has some weaknesses, because once you're no longer eligible for unemployment, they take you out of that number too. So we don't really know what the true raw unemployment number is, but at least we know for sure it would be above 7%, because that's what the U6 number is. So the technical definition of a recession is 2 consecutive quarters of negative growth. That's the GDP that I was telling you about. So if people start spending less and less money and it goes into the negatives, and that happens for 6 months straight, we're technically in a recession. And you have to understand, people in the Federal Reserve will not announce there's a recession. I mean, you can ask people in your family if you were too young, but was the 2008 crisis announced before it happened? No. Like 6 months later, they're like, ooh, my bad. Yeah, we didn't see that coming, but here it is. So you're not going to be warned if you're just watching television. You're not going to really know what's going on if you're just listening to that surface level information. It's really important to dig a little bit deeper. The things that I'm telling you about are things that I find directly on these people's websites, like the Federal Reserve, the IMF. This is information you can get directly from the horse's mouth. So what is my outlook? Again, without getting too nerdy, there are 2 options that can happen. We can have a Venezuela situation, which is extreme, but it's hyperinflation. Once you print all that money, like I mentioned in the beginning, the money becomes worthless. So if it reaches a point where we're at hyperinflation and we're printing so much money, that could cause prices to skyrocket, and maybe not even just asset prices, but like your bread, all your food can go shooting up to the stars. And normally what people suggest is you invest in precious metals. Let me know if you guys want a video on that. But at any rate, the idea is precious metals actually hold their value because you have to put work in to get these precious metals. When it comes to fiat currency, you just press a button and boom, it's printed. That's pretty much no value. But when you're getting gold and silver, the gold, it requires mining. You have to actually have people going out there and getting it, so there is a value to it. And gold has risen in almost every single country except the United States, because we haven't reached that point yet. Now, if we have a deflationary recession, which is what we had in 2008, then it's a really good opportunity to start buying assets. And the stock market will go to a more appropriate price, because I think right now it's pretty overvalued. Real estate and most markets are very overvalued. And in that case, you can take advantage of that and start buying up some assets. Either way, not doing anything too crazy with your money and just being very thoughtful and about, okay, maybe you should cut back a little bit on your spending. make sure you're getting a little bit more information. I will tag some of my resources below that I go to for alternative news. It's a little bit deeper. It's backed by facts and not just words, because if you listen to what you're hearing on TV, they rarely give you charts. They rarely break things down and explain things in a way that's understandable for the average person. But yes, either way, I'm not entirely sure which way we're gonna go, but I would say you can be prepared both ways by making sure you have an ample amount of savings, and you can consider investing in precious metals or actual physical assets. The problem with stocks and bonds and other intangible assets is that it can go to zero, right? I mean, that's what happened in 08, and people were killing themselves literally because their 401k poof just vanished into thin air. And I have a video talking about the 401k if you want to understand how that even happens. So make sure you click that video right up here. So what that means to me is you have to have true diversification, which is intangible and tangible assets. And that means not only just stocks and bonds, which are paper assets, but you can have some physical assets, a business, real estate, precious metals, Bitcoin for some. I'm not on the Bitcoin train yet, but convince me otherwise. But it's important to have a mix so that you are positioned well for any type of outcome. Right, that is it. If you like this video, please like this video, and you can go ahead and watch some more. I got a lot of options for you. Please be sure to subscribe. It helps with the algorithm. Like the video, comment below, talk to me. So as always, keep your money up.